Welcome to Talking Technology with VI Labs. At VI Labs, we believe technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you're looking for the latest news and conversation on tech from a more accessible perspective, you've come to the right place.
Yes, indeed, you have. Hello and welcome in to Talking Technology episode number 68. Can you believe it? We are at the 8th of October 2024 already. We are heading fast towards winter, folks. It is going to be snowing before we know it, I am sure. But there you go. But hey, before we get down to business, just a quick note. We are having some technical problems with VI Live this afternoon, unfortunately. It's misbehaving like a bold child. So unfortunately, we apologise for that. There are some technical issues beyond our control. But we will have that hopefully up and running again really soon. And we will have the podcast available in full on demand for you too if you want to catch up. So sorry about that. Out of our control. But hey, it's not all bad news because today it's Amazon Prime Big Deal Day. Yes, it only comes around, 3 or 4 times a year at this point. Anytime Amazon want to sell something, it just seems to come around these days. But yeah, Amazon Prime Big Deal Day, or days. It's actually today and tomorrow. So there's some really good discounts out there. There's smart speakers are heavily reduced, really heavily reduced actually. There's some 50% plus deals on some of the smart speakers there. Talking smoke alarms also getting a reduction. There's some really interesting stuff. I'll chat more with Joe on that later on as well. Just some of the really good offers that are out there. It's always good to be aware of those. And hey, we've also got a packed show coming up, and we're going to be taking a look at accessible goat farming. Yes, I know that's not a topic I expected to talk about on Talking Technology either, but there you go. So do stick around. We have a packed show coming up. And as always, if you would like to get in touch, there are loads of ways that you can do so. So if you want to join the conversation, one of the ways that you can do that is to send us a WhatsApp voice note. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note to 086 199 0011. That's 086 199 0011. Or if you want to get in touch with us the good old-fashioned way, we'd absolutely love to hear from you too. You can send us an email to content@vi.ie. That's content@vi.ie. And be sure to keep an eye out for our Talking Technology Big Question. That's in our Tech on Tap newsletters every single Friday. So if you see a question there that you want to have some involvement in, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note or an email. But do remember, a WhatsApp voice note is not a call. You want to find the voice message button. It's labelled with voice order over and everything. It's down there at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, the bottom right hand there. So you will find the voice message button, and that is how you can get in touch with us. And get in touch with us, many people did. And joining me to talk about all that and more, I am joined all the way from Kilkenny as usual by Mr. Joe Lonigan. Joe, how are things?
Hi David, I'm all good.
Brilliant. Are you going shopping with big deals this week, Joe?
Yeah, I noticed I'm thinking of getting an extra smart speaker. So I think it's the 5th gen Echo Dot is only £23 sterling. That's very cheap. I think it's something like 60% off. And then I see an Echo Spot was something around the €40 mark, which is like a little bedside smart speaker alarm clock. And then the Pop was around the £20 mark. That's quite cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to go wrong for Alexa for £20. Like, I mean, it's like I noticed there as well, like even the big ones, like if you're into your sound quality, you can get the decent ones. I think the 4th generation ones, and those obviously have like the smart home hubs built in and stuff now. That's down from like £112 to I think like 51, which is just really, really good, isn't it? You can't go wrong with that, like.
Yeah, it's fantastic value actually, and there's a decent enough sound. Well, there's decent enough sound out of the Echo Dot, but there's a better sound out of the fourth gen. It used to be called the Amazon Echo Plus, but now I think they just call it the Amazon Echo, and it's a very good value, 51 quid. That you can't argue with that, David.
You really can't. Do you know, I was only thinking actually recently, Joe, they haven't really upgraded Alexa a whole lot in quite a while. Do you know, the standard like non-screen ones. We're still at the fourth gen, and we've been at the fourth gen for what, like 3 or 4 years
2020?
now? Yeah.
But does this give us the feeling that they might be selling these off and releasing some products? What do you reckon?
It's a valid point. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I don't know. I would like to see another Alexa. I'd like to see it like better, better sound quality would obviously be nice. Better like thread and Matter integration would be nice. Yeah, I would like to see that, but at the same time, it's hard to argue with the fourth gen even at like that, like for 51 quid. And I know that's pound sterling, but like you can't go wrong with that. It's pretty decent, isn't it? You
can't argue that. I see they have a recycle button. You can get 25% back. I'm not sure how that works, but it could be an option for some people too. If you want to click on that and see, is there an option to get it even cheaper? I noticed there's a couple of other products as well on a Ring indoor cam, 24 quid, Tapo indoor cam, around something similar. Look, basically it's Prime Day. If you have a Prime membership, or even you could get one for the month and try it out, and you give you a free trial for a month. You could even try out Prime at the moment, and this is the perfect time when you have a chance to get some of those products a bit cheaper if you're in the mood for shopping.
Yeah. Absolutely. The talk and smoke alarms, they're still very pricey, but the battery models are down from like £112 to 81 as well, which is a decent reduction, and it's a fantastic product. We have them at home. It's an amazing product. It will announce, say, where smoke is. It will announce if the battery's low. It will send you notifications to your phone, all fully voiced and accessible and stuff. Really great product. And that is also reduced. That's the Nest Protect. If people are looking for that, the Nest Protect, or Google Nest Protect, Google own Nest now. But yeah, some really interesting deals out there. Well worth exploring. Do remember, if you do sign up for Prime, to cancel it. It's very awkward. I don't know if you've ever tried, Joe. It's very awkward to cancel Prime. Audible's the same, actually. Very difficult to cancel them. But at the same time, it's worth doing, because you can very easily get caught spending a tenner a month. And if you don't
very unusual, David, that they make it really, really easy to sign up and really, really difficult to unsubscribe. What do you think of that?
Totally unheard of, Joe. Yeah, absolutely. Totally unheard of. But anyway, Joe, that's us. I guess we'll have to sort out some Christmas presents and stuff now on while Prime Big Deal Day is going on. But shall we get down to business with some voice notes then? We had a lot of correspondence in this week, and one of them is based on an article we had in the newsletter for Tech on Tap just recently about brain implants, these from Neuralink, and the possibility that they could bypass the eye and the optic nerve and effectively stimulate images in the brain. One of the people who sent us a message on WhatsApp and got in touch was Michael, and Michael shared his perspective on it. Michael's message here is obviously voiced by AI. Here's what Michael had to say.
Hello everyone. I lost my eyesight due to a stroke. My vision center is irreparably damaged. My whole life changed overnight. If there was a chip that could replace the vision center, I would take the opportunity to be a test subject and to be able to see again. I have been following the development of Neuralink for a long time and have already registered with them, but I also think that the development will take years, if not decades, so I don't really have much hope of being able to see again in the near future, if it will ever be possible for me at my current age of 50. But hope dies last. Michael Pesh.
Yeah, really interesting message, Michael. Joe, you and me, you're in a similar boat. You take, like, now you have, is it just light perception you have pretty much, isn't it?
Shadows and light perception, sorry, and maybe a bit of color and shapes and that kind of thing, but no detail, if you know what I mean. It's just see a little bit. For mobility uses, it's okay. For reading large print or even small print, any print at all, I can't see details, so it's not no good to me, and I can't see the TV, that kind of thing. So I'm like Michael there. To give me a bit of improvement, I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm funny in this one. We talked about it on the podcast before. I am happy with what I've got. I know no different. I would much like if you could guarantee me what I've got would remain stable, I'd take that in a heartbeat. But I also don't have currently like a massive desire to get more vision. And I think initially, at least anyway, like the Blindsight from Neuralink, it's not claiming to do that. It's very much they're like, this is going to be, probably giving people just very low resolution images. They call them Atari graphics, initially. So it's probably not going to give that kind of level of detail that we're looking for initially yet. But saying that, for someone who does have no light perception, it could still be a really interesting one. Michael did also send us a copy of an email that was sent to him by the Neuralink team after Blindsight got their breakthrough device designation. This is really interesting. Have a listen to this.
Dear Michael, thank you for participating in our patient registry. We are excited to share that we recently received breakthrough device designation from the FDA for our Blindsight device, which is designed to restore vision for individuals who are blind. While this designation marks a significant milestone, we want to clarify that we do not yet have an approved clinical trial for this device. Currently, the only approved trial we are conducting is the PRIME study, which is for individuals with quadriplegia due to ALS or spinal cord injury, SCI. We greatly appreciate your participation, and we will keep your application on file. If a clinical trial for Blindsight becomes available and you meet the eligibility criteria, we will reach out to you. Thank you for your support and interest in Neuralink's innovative work. We look forward to staying in touch. Gratefully, Neuralink Patient Registry Team.
Yes, there you go. So like they're really trying to clarify that, Blindsight doesn't have... It's a breakthrough device designation. Still a big deal, but not... we're still a ways off from those human trials, Joe.
That was a very interesting reply. I think the whole story at the very start was very misleading, and it led some blind people down a garden path and probably into some people into a bit of a frenzy that this device was going to be here sooner than some people thought. I think, as I said, it was a bit of a misleading story. I suppose so what if you get a bit of a designation for this and that, like we want to see. Maybe wait a little bit farther down the line before we, put the story out there, put it that way. Because they came back with that reply, I suppose, it puts a little bit of a dampener on Michael's expectations and moves things down the line a little bit further, I think. But as you know, David, I suppose with technology and news stories and things like that, things do change overnight. So look, next week you could hear another story, or you could hear another device, or even Elon Musk could have invested money in another branch of some organization that has some great technology. So, but at the same time, I think that the response was probably a little bit disheartening. Not sure how you feel about it, David.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's easy to be disheartened by it. I think I can definitely see that side of it. I think, and Michael said it in his original message, that I think like he was of the view that this is going to probably take decades anyway to get to anything that is like really significant. I think, being honest, and I'm no scientist, my guess is that he's probably right in that. I mean, Elon Musk's other company, Tesla, like they promised, you know, robo taxis years ago, and it's only like starting to slowly happen now, and even that's questionable. So like there's always been a tendency from these companies to overpromise but not over deliver, but like deliver on a timeline that is really extended. So in some ways this is expected, but I do think definitely when you're dealing with something as personal and profound as someone's health and eyesight, it is definitely a bit questionable if they can claim, you know, all of these, you know, massive wonderful things, but there's no timelines attached here, do you know?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, timeline is tricky. But look, I suppose the promising and the positive thing is they are researching into it, because at the end of the day, this is the only way that some people will have a hope of seeing again if that's what they want. So I think to have some sort of research in this department, I think is very positive. And who better to do it? Only the richest man in the world, because at the end of the day, this kind of technology is going to take millions and millions before we get to even deciding what platform to put it on, or how to even get it to, you know, to work at all. So I think the best man to give it a go is Elon Musk, even with his faults. I suppose you're going to need money behind a project like this. But look, we'll just watch this space, I suppose. No one to get too carried away. But it's great that he's doing research for people that are quadriplegic and stuff, because I think if you go to that stage, you're going to try anything. And if there's a part of your brain that needs to be reactivated to even get anything working on the spinal cord, to even get someone's fingers moving again or something like that, it leads on to other things as well. You can, while you're looking for one problem, you can discover the fix for another.
That's a very valid point, and it is something that's worth considering. And it seems that technology that they have the actual study for, I think they call it the Prime study there. I think that technology, it sounds like it's a little further along. Like, you know, vision, I think is seemingly very complex, you know, which stands to reason. But I think, yeah, it is absolutely good to have, definitely, you know, Elon's company researching it, and hopefully many others as well. We need a bit of like we need more research in this space, whether you would take a cure in a heartbeat or you would be reluctant. That I think is definitely okay too, but it's definitely good to have the research, because with research comes options, and options are always a good thing. But there you go. Someone else, and thank you so much, Michael, as well, for sending that in to us. Much appreciated. Someone else who was getting in touch on that and a number of other matters, including the release of iOS 18, is Edvard. Edvard is back. Here's what Edvard had to say for us this week.
Well, to let you know that I have installed iOS 18 RC. So I actually got it earlier than anyone else. I was brave enough to actually do it. It was actually really accessible to install. All you have to do is just go to beta.apple.com. But anyways, I did try out the new features, and the voiceover features are amazing. The voiceover tutorial is very similar to what we had with TalkBack. And I really will say that Apple should have had this ages ago instead of just voiceover practice. Because with voiceover practice, like, how was I supposed to know what I'm supposed to do? I just had to guess the gesture, and voiceover would tell me what it is. Whereas now, with proper voiceover tutorial, it's much easier. And the other thing that I was really surprised is that voiceover actually now supports my other native language. I didn't think that they would actually add it, since it's a pretty small country, but it now supports Lithuanian, and I didn't think they would ever add it. So this is actually amazing. So I really do like the new voiceover features and the new way to activate Braille screen input as well, and the sound that it makes when you activate, it's actually awesome. So it's pretty amazing. And in terms of the Blindsight, well, I will say that if it was possible, I would have actually probably got the opportunity and did get proper full vision, because all I have is light perception. And didn't you guys mention that for anyone that doesn't have light perception it wouldn't work? But luckily I do. So, I mean, at least that is something. But I would like to actually experience full-on vision instead of what I actually already have. So that's my answer to your big question.
Yeah, just a few interesting points there. So yeah, just on the whole thing of light perception. So in your case, Edvard, so you have some light perception. So basically, my understanding is that this technology in its current form, or even like its form in the immediate future at least, would be that it wouldn't necessarily give you a whole lot more than that. The idea, I think, is that it would be able to generate those kind of low resolution images. I think we're still a very far way away from like full vision. But in terms of those who don't have any light perception, it does seem that the technology, it's effectively bypassing the eye and the optic nerve. So as long as you still have a visual cortex intact within your brain, in theory, it doesn't matter if you did or didn't have light perception. The hope would be that this technology would potentially be able to assist. All untested though, so time will tell on that. But Joe, the iOS 18 features, have you been trying iOS 18 yourself yet?
I have, David. I'm not as good at marking it there as Edvard is, but I haven't noticed massive improvements or anything like that. It's nice to be able to remove the torch from your home screen, all right, so I don't have to be walking around with a torch turned on. But I've had a quick look. Didn't do any harm to my phone anyway, and it's good to have a voiceover tutorial. Not that I need it now, but it's good for when I show or teach other service users how to use voiceover, that there's a voiceover tutorial there and stuff like that. So I'm still messing around with it, David, and I'm looking forward to trying out some of the new things in it. Great to see Lithuanian is included for Edvard there. There is a big Lithuanian community in Ireland, and look, they're sharing the love all around the world by the looks of it, so that's a good thing.
Absolutely a good thing, and it would make you raise the question. I did, I did have a look at what the population of Lithuania was, and it's between like 2 and 3 million. So like it's a slightly smaller country than us, which is interesting because it then does raise the question of when, if ever we would actually get the Irish language potentially with voiceover, which I think in school settings in particular would be a massive deal for people. But you'd never know. It is interesting to think about, though, that they are seemingly tackle, not that Lithuanian is a small language, but they are tackling those kind of, they've got the main ones, the English, French, Spanish now. But they're going down the list there, which is always good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good to see. Irish language, yeah. I wonder is there many down the Gaeltacht running around there with iPhone 16s, David. But as you said, the homework is another thing. Like our schools, especially if you haven't done Irish in a while, like myself, it is handy to have an Irish option for pronunciation on your iPhone. I know it's actually talking about smart speakers earlier. There's a brilliant thing on the Alexa smart speakers where you can say a sentence and ask it to say it in Irish, and they have a lovely Irish speaking voice that comes in and translates things into Irish and gives you help with the pronunciation. Yeah, so I would welcome something like that to come to the iPhone as well. It'd be amazing, actually. Just to include us and for help with some of those homework dilemmas that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, goodness, back when I was in secondary school, doing the Shra Pictori Ascuelga, and those, for those who don't know, they're like picture stories, right? And you basically you're handed a sheet. It's done in an oral context, so you have to speak it. And they would hand you a sheet with picture stories, and you basically have to talk about the pictures and tell the picture story in Irish, and then they ask you questions about the story and stuff like that. And it's just one of the ways that you're tested on your Irish language skills. But I used to have just notes upon notes for those picture stories. I actually used to learn off basically the stories, each one verbatim, because I couldn't see the pictures. So I would just learn off the story and just rattle them off. But yeah, absolutely. If VoiceOver had the ability to speak Irish, then would have made life so much easier.
It would make a big difference. I know it's a handy tool for, we'll say, comprehension or things like that, which sometimes Luke might bring home a poem in Irish, and, you know, there might be one or two words. I know most of it, but there might be one or two words that would be iffy. So I could take a picture of it with Be My Eyes, and then a follow-up question is, can you translate this into English? And Be My Eyes actually does a great job. Just the power of AI, David. I think it's great. Yeah. Be My Eyes does a great job of translating it into English, and I can understand it word for word, and it helps. It helps big time, you know.
There you go. It is fascinating, isn't it? That like assistive technology is helping in that very, you know, non-sight loss specific problem. I think it's a very real problem out there. But there you go. Yeah. It is interesting for sure, but good to hear that you're enjoying the new features in iOS 18, Edvard. I must say I've been happy enough with iOS 18. It's not perfect. I've had a few issues with VoiceOver where it kind of like cuts itself off at the start of sentences and stuff like that sometimes now. It's a bit funny that way. But overall, it seems like an okay upgrade, and you're always going to have bugs in those first few releases, I think. But yeah, decent update for sure. Decent update. So yeah, thank you so much for getting in touch. Next up, another voice note in. This one in from Raheem. And Raheem is he is interested in the digital census. Here's what Raheem had to say to us.
Hi folks, hope you're well. Raheem Nazrani here. Not sure if you're aware, but there's currently work being done by the Central Statistics Office on the new census. We're due to complete the census in 2027, but they're currently looking at rolling out an online version pilot. I received an email in work yesterday by some colleagues who are working on it. They've been seconded from our statistics department to actually work on it. So they sent around the link yesterday, and I began to complete it today, and I discovered I couldn't get past the first part of it, which was asking for my home address. It asked me for an error code. It looked like there was a pop-up there with JAWS. That's what I felt anyway, because I couldn't go any further. I think it wanted to run a search. So initially, even the first part of it isn't accessible. Maybe this is something Vision Ireland could get involved with. I think it would be important as us as a group of visually impaired blind people, we would be the main users, I think, of this, along with other people who want the online option, but we definitely would be. So I think it's important for Vision Ireland to get involved. Maybe VI Labs could look at this. I know when I filled in the census a few years ago, the enumerator, the person who was going around to people's homes, actually had to fill it in with me. which I have to say was really not acceptable. But I felt if I wanted to participate, this was the only way to do it. So I think it's important. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much, Raheem. Yeah, I don't know if you tried this, Joe. I actually had a look at the new online census as well. Did you get a chance to take a look at it?
I didn't have a look at it, David. Sorry, but I didn't have a look at it yet.
Yeah, no, it's. I'll be honest with you. I had a similar enough experience to Raheem. It's one of these things. Straight away, the air code, there's a text field, and I think it's one of these ones where you search for your address by its air code initially to get started. But it seemed to me that just wasn't labelled or anything like that. It kind of felt to me like the accessibility of it was a work in progress. So I'm hopeful that they are working on it, but still it wasn't it wasn't a good initial experience. And I also noticed that they list the average time of completion of the form on the website for 23 minutes or something like that. And I just couldn't help thinking that, if someone's doing this with a screen reader, it's obviously going to be slower. So this is going to take, at best, probably an hour anyway, which is just going to be a headache no matter what way you do it. And I know they need to gather these statistics. And I think maybe the online way of doing this is going to be probably the main way that we do it going forward, especially for visually impaired people. But it just just doing it the first time around there, just looking at how it's going to work. I didn't complete it. I couldn't complete it. I got stuck the same way as Raheem, but I just thought this is going to be a bit of a headache.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a disaster. 23 minutes, and multiply that by an extra few for a screen reader user. But yeah, Raheem is right. I think look, he could send it on to us, send it on to Sean, and we can work on this with the CSO, because he did mention the time when he wanted to take part in the census. He had to have assistance by an enumerator. So I found that also frustrating that I couldn't do it independently. So I think in this day and age, look, maybe they could give you a window between 8 and 9 in the evening when the enumerator is supposed to call in, and let us fill in the form ourselves with an accessible form or an app or something like that you can log in with Touch ID or your Gov ID or something like that. And look, it goes back to a lot of these things with the government. The voting isn't accessible and things like that could be, as long as there's a little bit of thinking outside the box, because there's loads of technology out there now to help us. And look, we'd be delighted to work along with the CSO and help them out testing these products and give them advice. But they can approach us and we can give it a go. But I do hope that in time all these things will be improved.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking there as you say it. How could you do it in a way that it's actually feasible without having to go through this process that realistically is going to take an hour and cause a headache? And I was thinking, I wonder, you mentioned an app there, Joe. Wouldn't it be really cool if you could do it through your smart speaker and have your smart speaker effectively just talk you through everything? That
would be cool, David, but I think, to be honest with you, with all the logins and things like that, I think the best way to do it is through an app that can verify it's you, and it's unique. I think we should get that out of the way first and get the simple things done. And the thing that everybody has in their hand all day, every day, well, some people, I don't want to speak for everybody, but their mobile phone, which is generally a very secure, encrypted device that they could put an app on with your government ID in it and get a panel or a group of experts, hopefully visually impaired people, around the table and say, what's the best way to do this, and work on it. Spend even the next, I don't know when the next census is, but spend the next couple of years getting getting it fixed, getting it done,
Absolutely. They have till 2027. So I would hope that by then this should be, because I think this is an important thing, that it needs to have not just good accessibility. This is one of those things that needs to have great accessibility. And I think hopefully we will get there. And CSO, if you're listening, do absolutely link in with us. We would love to lend a hand there, and would be willing to do so. It is one of these things where, this is national infrastructure that needs to be accessible. So thank you so much for flagging it, Raheem. It's a really interesting one, and we can definitely hope that by 2027, when the next census rolls around, that it is accessible. But thank you so much. So those are our voice notes for this week, Joe. Some fascinating perspectives, and loads of people sending in their thoughts, which is always great, isn't it?
Wow, that was an abundance of voice notes, and thanks very much, everybody, for sending in your voice notes. Great to have some participation, and it's great to see the voice notes taken off. We'd love to hear some new voices coming in, so you're always welcome to send a voice note into the Talking Technology podcast. And David, you can give out the number again, please.
Absolutely, yeah, it's 086 199 0011. That's 086 199 0011. Remember, a voice note is not a call. You want to use the voice message button in the bottom right hand corner of the WhatsApp chat screen, and don't be shy. It's okay. If you do feel more comfortable sending a regular WhatsApp message, that's okay too. We will make that work for you. But hey, we would absolutely love to hear your voice too if you did feel comfortable doing so. That would be awesome. Or you can send us an email the good old fashioned way to content@vi.ie. Now, Joe, shall we chat about goats?
Goats. Greatest of all time.
Yeah, that's thank you for referring to me as that, Joe. I do appreciate it. But no, this is not about me. This is actual physical goats. And specifically goat farming. We caught up with Ed Harper. Now, Ed, for those who don't know Ed has no vision, and he is running a massive goat farm down here in Cork. And he's been using all sorts of technology and stuff to run this goat farm quite successfully for the last 45 years. So we caught up with Ed to learn a little bit more about some of the technology that's being used on the farm and in agriculture generally, and to learn about just how accessible agriculture is. This is an area that lots of people want to get into. It's traditionally thought of sometimes as an inaccessible industry in some ways, but it was fascinating to catch up with Ed about all things goat farming and how he's doing things. So here's what happened when I caught up with Ed Harper yesterday. So joining me now on Talking Technology, I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Harper, who is a goat farmer down here in Cork. Quite a relatively unusual role, I think, for people who are blind or visually impaired. But I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about this. Ed, you're very welcome to Talking Technology. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks.
Brilliant. So, Ed, as I say, a goat farmer. It's not one of the, I guess, traditional roles that we think of when we think of accessibility around things like this. But do you want to tell us a little bit, I guess, first of all, about yourself and how you got into goat farming?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm originally from England, as you can probably tell by my accent. And I came over from Manchester I think the first time I was over would have been in the 1960s, but first time I was in Cork would have been in 73. And I came to Cape Clear full time in 79 to goat farm. That's why I came. And I was just lucky. I mean, land was cheap. The prices, shift all the time, obviously, but it just happened to be the case that house prices where I was teaching in England were high, and land prices here were cheap, and I just hit it lucky, and I managed to swap a terraced house in the middle of the town overlooking the ring road for 27 acres of land. And I totally
hard to say no to that.
Realised, yeah, well, and I've never regretted it really, apart from in the middle of a 410 fog. But the truth of the matter is, part of the reason the land was so cheap was just that it had no buildings, it had no fencing, it had nothing other than the land. But quite frankly, the land is absolutely ideal for what I've used it for the last 45 years.
Awesome stuff.
It's varied, it's well drained. And it's a great place to live. It's a great community.
Brilliant stuff. So I guess when you came over first and when you first kind of established the goat farm then here in Cork, did you have any vision at that point, or? No,
I lost my sight, in fact, the first eye when I was 11 months, the second one when I was about 3.5. So, and when I came here, I would have been 30.
Okay.
So, no, I didn't.
So, what does it look like then, running a goat farm with, in your case, no vision, I guess? So, like, you mentioned to me earlier on, you're using a screen reader and stuff, but how does everything work day to day? How do you find even things like, say, getting around the farm? How do you manage all that kind of stuff?
Well, these days, I've got very old. My balance has got very bad. And in fact, to be honest, if you were to ask me, what I consider my major disability to be, it's my balance, not my blindness. But that's because, frankly, I've grown up with very good balance and no sight. Whereas, this balance problem is fairly recent. And that's a problem for getting around the land. It's almost impossible now. But for the last probably 43 years of the 45 years I've been here, I got around the land fairly well. And the main way I did it actually was a guide dog. And without a guide dog, I couldn't have done the job. I had a guide dog, or I had 6 guide dogs for 46 years. One came over from England with me, and then the others I got in this country. They were absolutely essential to me because it's the only way I could get around the land. What I had to learn to do fairly rapidly, there's a big difference between working a guide dog on pavements in a city, which is obviously basically how you trained, to working a guide dog on field paths up and down hills and, cross fields to animals and that kind of thing. But like anything else, when you're young, you can learn to do most things. I only made one serious mistake with a guide dog working on the land, which was the time I just decided that I knew where I was and the dog was mistaken because the dog had stopped dead and was refusing to go. And I'd actually lost concentration and forgotten where I was. And I said, come on, don't be so stupid, and stepped forward from the dog and fell about 3'6", 4 feet down into the next field, which taught me a lesson.
Yeah. There you go. I can imagine. That's amazing. But tell me then as well, so on the technology side, what are you using? You do use something which I found fascinating called No Fence as well, which it's basically like an app on your phone that it's almost like a virtual fence for the goats, is it?
Yeah, in fact, in practice, the main way I almost certainly could use the app, probably. I don't, in fact, use the app on my phone. I do use the technology, though. I use it via my friend, Phoebe, who actually it's just quicker and easier to get her to do it. But it's No Fence. It's a brilliant system. I mean, for 27 acres of land, not flat fields, different shaped fields, up and down fields, is not easy to fence and not easy to keep fenced, and especially with goats. When you're talking about goats, it's not like a couple of wires like it is with a cow. You're talking 3'6" fences, 4-foot fences, and you're talking the growth coming up from the bottom when you're fencing through ferns and so on. And for years, probably 40 odd years, I've just had to do that's been the perennial job all the time, clearing fences, repairing fences, fixing posts, insulators all the time, checking. And along came no fence, which I originally only heard about when it was in Norway. It's a Norwegian system originally. And it sounded too good to be true, but it was a development of a thing that I'd actually used before, which was a satellite tracking system that's actually designed for dogs. I think there's a cat version too. I think there's a smaller version. But there's a system called Tractive, which is the GPS-based system, so you can tell where your animals are. And that was a useful thing to have before. But no fence is brilliant because no fence goes one step further. Effectively, each animal wears its own electric fence. It has a battery around its neck and a chain collar through which it gets the shock. And you simply set up the area that you want the animals to stay in other words, the field, using Google Maps. And when the animals get within sort of a metre and a half of the fence, they get a warning noise. And the nearer they get, the louder and the higher the noise gets. And if they get to the fence, they get a shock. And it's very, very effective. They learn very rapidly what's going on. And most of the time, they never get a shock. It's expensive enough, but, so is fencing. I mean, we got to the stage here, having fenced, let's say, 45 years ago, and kept fencing all the time because it's the only way you can with electric fences. Is you're forever fixing them. And it got to the stage that I was due for a major redo. That was going to be very expensive and more expensive in time than money even. So looking at that, and at the same time I heard about this no fence system. So I got on to the company in Norway originally, and we got the collars over and we tried them out and they worked fantastically.
It is fascinating because one of the things you mentioned to me before we started recording is like you're using no fence, you're using a screen reader, you're using all of these different things. But you mentioned that you find, that it is human help that makes the big difference on a farm like that. How do you find, do you sometimes get people who almost have a bit of a shock when they discover, the farmer I'm working with here has no vision?
Yeah, we're part of the WOOF program, which is the worldwide works on organic farms. We have people who volunteer to come to the farm to work alongside us, and we teach them what we know in return for the work they give to us. And that can be an interesting one. The brighter and the more flexible the person, the quicker they pick up the real problems, and the quicker they dismiss the perceived stereotype problems. But yeah, they can be a bit surprised sometimes, and we deal with visitors. I say I'm a farmer, and that's my main occupation because I love the animals. But in fact, I run effectively a food production and retail tourism business in the summers, as well as keeping animals all year. We make our money basically out of ice cream and, don't say it too loud in the hearing of vegans, but we turn the surplus kids, goat kids that is, into burgers and sausages, as well as eating the meat ourselves. And that's how we make our living, and showing visitors around, teaching people more seriously sort of one sort of week-long courses, that kind of thing. So I don't do much of that these days, other than the Wolf program volunteers. But yeah, I mean, so it's a fairly diverse business that I'm involved in. And as I say, there's a lot of the physical aspects now I really can't do very well at all. But all the, if you like, the intellectual aspects and using technology, I can. And obviously organisation, I can.
Ed, we often get questions about agriculture and how accessible it is as an industry. Sometimes that question comes from people who, you know, want to get into it for the first time. Also, you know, we might get it sometimes from those who've been in agriculture for years and have later lost their sight. But from your perspective, how accessible is agriculture?
It depends what kind of agriculture and what scale of agriculture you're talking about. I mean, it would be, I mean, there's no way I could drive a tractor, for instance. But like most things these days in farming, unless you're a very big farmer, most of us small farmers would tend to use contractors anyway. So the answer is really, if you are in agriculture and once you're over the shock of losing your sight, I mean, that's the main problem. Because if you go blind, what's happened to you is you had a way of doing things all your life, and suddenly you discover you can't do it that way. And that's the problem. It's the readjustment, I would say, more than anything else. Most things, I mean, I'm in livestock farming, and with livestock, really, quite frankly, 90% of it is touch. Now, most people who think about sight is, of course, as you realise in Vision Island, that the primary sense people go for always is sight. They use their other senses, and half the time they don't even know they are doing, because the fact of the matter is sight is so efficient compared to anything else that people just ignore all the other senses. But once you get over the shock, you can adjust to doing most things, and especially livestock farming. A lot of the time is touch, and it's also cooperation. And that's one of the great things about goats. Despite their reputation, goats are 95% of the time are very easy to handle because they're very trainable. Once they have your relationship with you, they're great. They want to do what you want them to do. They like to be led. They don't like to be driven, of course. That's the one thing about goats. But once you've got goats to respect, you can control them. And the only thing is that you have to take your time to sort out ways of doing things. And you have to be not afraid to ask for help to sort out doing the things you can't do. And the other thing as well, which I think is a good point, is very often now with modern technology, there may be ways of doing things using technological solutions, which quite frankly are better done using people, just because people are so much more flexible and so much more, it's pleasanter to work with people. I think this is one of the things farmers find, generally speaking, is it's a lonely old life half the time. It's actually better working with other people just because it's sociable. And there are things, I mean, you can, I gather, get syringes which will, you can measure antibiotics by, kind of it clicks and this kind of thing. But quite frankly, I'd rather ask somebody. Now, if I was really on my own, totally on my own, which I have been at various times,
sure,
you have to be patient. And that's the other big thing, is patience. But that's true if you're going to be a livestock farmer anyway. A livestock farmer without patience is a very dangerous person, and both to himself and to the animals. And really, it's better to go and grow vegetables
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a fascinating point of view. I guess we're starting to see, I guess for people who have low or no vision, we're starting to see a lot of advancements in everything from, artificial intelligence. And, you can wear glasses and stuff now that will give you just incredible descriptions of what's happening in front of you and stuff like that. But as you say, it's not going to replace the need and the desire to work with people. And that's something that I think is important to remember, but a fascinating point of view in many ways, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah. And I mean, of course, the other important thing is peer group support. I mean, I don't know any other blind farmers these days. I have met somebody from Sweden who keeps cows. This is good for probably 20 years ago, and I don't know whether she's still doing it. Probably is. And I know there was a man up on Inishmaan who had cattle, who was blind. But it's people. I tend to, have dealings with other blind people largely for technological advice, to be honest, because they know more about it than me.
Yeah. There you go.
And also just for general support and general knowledge. And for instance, I find Voice of the Visually Impaired a really useful organisation because of the fact it's peer group support, and it's group of people with similar experiences and a vast variety of knowledge that I don't have.
For sure. Well, listen, Ed, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the conversation. It's a fascinating discussion. And I don't know. I would imagine I'd find it hard to get into farming as a city boy myself, but there you go. It really is one of these things. And I think you've given a lot there that will encourage, many to at least not rule it out, if they've been doing it for years and they do lose their sight or whatever. I think that's important. So thank you so much.
The one thing I would say, if people want hands-on experience, come and see me is the answer. And as I say, it's goats. But if you want experience with goats, you'd be very welcome to come and visit us, and we'll teach you what we can.
Fantastic stuff. Ed, listen, thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us on Talking Technology. Much appreciated.
Okay, that's a pleasure.
That really is a fascinating conversation, isn't it? Because I think goat farming, you think of it, or farming in general, as I say, you can think of it as quite inaccessible in a lot of ways. But I think Ed just proves that you can absolutely find ways and means of doing it. And technology is going to help with that more and more. I'm sure you in time we will have things like we've seen demos from the likes of Be My Eyes and things like that, where it can do that real time almost video call like thing, where you just have a conversation and it will happily describe whatever's in front of you. It's only time before something like that starts to make an industry like farming more and more accessible. You'll still always need a little bit of a hand. But yeah, what do you think, Joe? Fascinating one, isn't it? I think it's only a matter of time before we have a baby goat being delivered with the assistance of Be My Eyes. What do you think?
I think it's an absolute fantastic to see. It's absolutely fantastic to see somebody like Ed still farming, which probably very, very little or no vision, and to do something that he loves, on ground, I suppose, that isn't even suitable for somebody that probably can see and not talk with somebody who can't. So I think it's brilliant, actually. And technology he spoke about, no offense, it's fascinating. I know that people use it to keep dogs in gardens and stuff like that, so they don't go past a certain area. And some people might call it a very slight bit of cruelty there, as it gives a little shock, when you go past a certain area, level of area. But I think it's better than the dog getting lost or moving out onto the road and that kind of stuff. So there's lots of uses for that kind of technology. But use it for goat farming, I think, is fascinating. It's so cool, actually, that he can do that. And he's a very interesting person. It might give some people inspiration to stay in the game, as you said. If there was maybe some dairy farmers out there or something, there's probably loads of other technology you can use with dairy farming that could be made accessible. And as I said, a bit thinking outside the box, like Ed there, and you can do more things than you actually think you can do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We will have, for people interested, I know there are a lot of people who do have an interest in farming and agriculture and stuff like that. We will have an extended version of that interview available in our Tech on Tap newsletter this Friday. So sign up for Tech on Tap. You can go to the Vision Ireland website, vi.ie, or just search Vision Ireland Labs newsletter sign up, and you'll find that there. Sign up and you'll get the newsletter on Friday, but we'll have an extended version of that interview where we cover a lot of other really interesting things, including how kids can be of use on the farm. That's human kids, not goat kids. Really interesting stuff as well there. So thank you so much again to Ed for joining us, and we'll have news in just a second. But hey, if you do want to get in touch about that or any other topic, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to tell us about your experience, how you feel about getting into agriculture, have you done it? Have you worked in that space? Would you ever do it? As Ed said, quite a lot of it is touch related, but how would you feel about doing something on a farm? Send us a message on WhatsApp, the number you need, 086 199 0011. But now, Talking Technology news time.
This is Talking Technology News.
So, with your latest Talking Technology news, I'm Daniel Dunn. Dundalk Football Club have rolled out audio description for home matches and will now be providing the service going forward at all of their home games. Vision Ireland provided equipment and training to the club, with the audio description rolling out for the first time in a game against Bohemians on September 27th last. The atmosphere was electric on the night, with announcements made to the matches, over 3,000 attendees to tell them about the new service.
The Dundalk FC will be providing audio descriptive commentary, ABC services to their supporters at each home game. The community initiative, which is supported by Rehab Care Dundalk, Vision Ireland and Vision Sports Ireland, will see club volunteers who specialise in ABC and sight guide training provide a commentary and describe significant visual information about the game.
Dundalk unfortunately lost the match, but despite the result, it was still a great occasion. VI Labs technology trainer Chris Stewart, who helped organise the event, told us why this kind of access is so important.
On Friday, the 27th of September, Vision Ireland with Vision Sport enabled Dundalk FC to set up their audio descriptive commentary for the very first time. What this allowed was local supporters of Dundalk to re-enter the stadium for the first time in a number of years, to allow them to listen to really fantastic descriptive commentary, setting the scene while soaking up the atmosphere like every other supporter that attends. It was a really good success. The feedback we had from the visually impaired supporter who went was brilliant. Now the idea there is to hopefully attract more people to attend and avail of obviously this fantastic service.
So if you want to hear more about the rollout of audio description, do let us know, and we may cover it more in detail in a future episode of this podcast. In other news, the Irish Times published a letter this week discussing their own digital accessibility issues. The Irish Times often publishes content sent to them in their letters to the editor series, with this specific letter calling out the news publication for having poor accessibility in their digital edition. Among other things, the letter says, quote, "Your publication prides itself on being Ireland's leader in diversity, equity and inclusion, yet your mobile app's limited text resizing options, inadequate contrast settings and basic screen reader support tell a different story." The letter is unfortunately behind a paywall, but it does cover a very important topic. News publications really do need to get accessibility right, and in fairness, many do. While the journal has limited text resizing options, its voiceover support is exceptional. RTE News has also good voiceover support, but again does lack in some areas. Time will tell if the Irish Times actually improved their accessibility, but hopefully the fact that this letter was published suggests it at least caught their attention. And finally, for now, Tesla are expected to announce a robo-taxi service at an event on October 10th. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has long promised customers that when they are not using their car, they could choose to send it on its way as a self-driving taxi, in theory letting the owner earn some money. This hasn't happened yet, and it is unclear if this will be announced on Thursday either. The more likely option for now is that Tesla will follow a similar model to Google-owned Waymo, having its own fleet of vehicles that are specifically designed as robo-taxis. The event takes place in Hollywood on Thursday, and while there are currently lots of rumours, we really need to just wait and hope the tech is good. So, would you trust a robo-taxi? If so, let us know with a WhatsApp voice note to 086 199 0011. That's 086 199 0011. And that's it for now. Be sure to sign up for our latest Tech on Tap newsletter in order to get all the latest technology news for those with sight loss. Just Google Vision Ireland Labs newsletter sign up. And for now, it's back to you, David.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, some really interesting stuff there. Would you take a robo-taxi yourself?
Probably in a city centre where everything is kind of grindingly moving slow. Anyway, I'm not so sure now if I'd go out in the countryside or out in the motorways with one. It's like, God forbid if there was a small impact, right? It's much slower speeds, like in a city centre. Yeah, the chances are you're going to get up and walk out of it. But if something like a mass crash on a motorway or something like that, I'd shudder to think, would the technology be better than the human driver? I don't know. Yeah,
time is going to really tell. Joe, what would you think? Would you take one?
I probably would. I think the days of, I suppose, herds of cows on the road in the country are almost gone. So I'm not too worried about that.
No offence dealt with that, Joe.
Our own road infrastructure and potholes, maybe that could derail us a small bit. But I think, things are improving all the time with our road infrastructure. These cars, they have radar and LiDAR, and I was reading up a small bit, loads of technology that make them almost safer, they claim, than the human driver. So, but I do see where Daniel's coming from. It is very heartwarming to know you have a human driving a car sometimes, Not that I want to start up any conversations with taxi drivers or know where they're going on holidays or anything like that. But I do think it probably has a little way to go before it comes here to Ireland. And I see myself hopping into a Waymo style vehicle, or what's the name of Elon Musk's one again?
Is Tesla. There a name on it? They say that it's going to be called Cybercab.
Cybercab, good name. A Cybercab, it might take a while before I see myself in a Cybercab, but it's definitely something I'd love to try.
Yeah, it is pretty. It is pretty cool, and I think for visually impaired people in particular, it's going to provide, potentially an unrivaled level of independence that we haven't seen before. Like, if we want to go anywhere, we've to hop on a bus, hop on a train or whatever. Whereas just getting into a car say what you will about it, it's extremely expensive, but it does give you a lot of convenience. Do you know what I mean? It does absolutely give you a fair amount of convenience. Like,
it more than likely will only be in big cities, I reckon, if I had to guess. Because I'm wondering, where would you even store or park up these cyber taxis? Would they have to buy a massive car park space? Because I know, look, taxi men just park them in their front gardens or whatever. But where does this fleet of cyber taxis go? Underground?
Back to the Tesla charging points. And there's one not too far from where I live. Near the M8 motorway, there's a tech of 12 of them, so I could imagine them all parking them up there.
You could imagine it, but I think though, we'll say for the late night Dublin social scene, we'll say when a few thousand people want to go home at the same time, where does the cyber taxi park up? You know what I mean? I think it's an interesting topic. I think Dublin Transport, or the Ireland's Transport Authority, it is definitely going to be a challenge for them when maybe 2040 or whenever this really comes into place. Because let's face it, AI is going at that pace that something like this will eventually come into place. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the years and who's going to be the governing body on these cyber taxis.
There's one word, Joe, will determine all that. It's insurance.
Insurance, but which will be cheaper to insure, a human being or a robot taxi? That'll be interesting as well. And also, I suppose, I just think, he has a long way to go. We'll wait and see.
Time will tell. We'll know a lot on Thursday. So there is some other news going on around the place as well. Just to note, Windows is getting some updates. Daniel, what's going on with some Windows update? I hate Windows Update, I must say. It's awful. It's like you just restart and it's like, please turn back on. But no, it's updating. But sometimes those updates are good.
Sometimes the updates are good indeed. Look, there's I suppose throughout COVID, we were, any of us kind of really pay attention to Windows Update. We would have noticed maybe two major updates a year on Windows 10. But I suppose since the launch of Windows 11, I think I'm not sure how many half-year updates or twice-a-year updates there were. But it seems to be gone back to this, or I won't say gone back, but it just seems to be once a year now, this kind of major rollout of another version. So even though the official title on this Windows 11 is 24H2, it's just casually referred now as Windows 11 2024. So an interesting kind of switch in language there around that. Now, the biggest boast I've seen, reading around through the news articles, it got launched last week, so it is rolling out on Windows 11 users' laptops. It's through your Windows Update service. You may not notice actually getting installed, but it does come. They're boasting that it comes with a load of security feature fixes. It's more secure than ever before, which is always good. Now, I did have a look down through, is there anything of note for someone who's low vision or no vision? There's a couple of things that jump out at it, so I'll just briefly go through these now. So when you do your Windows and T to access the taskbar, you can use the first letter of the application you're looking for. So let's say you had, you were browsing on Microsoft Edge and you have Microsoft Word open as well. You can do your Windows T, press W, and return you back to Microsoft Word. So that's kind of handy. It's like a little feature of the Windows Explorer where you're looking for a file within a folder, tapping that first letter of the file name jumps you to that section. So that's quite good, I think. Also, if you use your laptop or your Windows device as maybe, playing a bit of music or whatever, I'm thinking somebody maybe with Surface Pro, they're pottering around the kitchen cooking a meal or whatever, and they've their Spotify player playing all their hits or playing something off YouTube or wherever. And next thing, somebody knocks at the door or whatever, or you need to stop that music. And the lock screen, so where you have logged into Windows already, put the music on, often the lock screen comes back on after a period of time. but your music stays playing, and you can actually control that now from the lock screen, so you don't have to go back putting in your password and logging back into Windows to pause music playing. So that's a good feature. Suppose it's a copy from Android and iPhone as well, where the lock screen of the phone, you have your media control buttons as well. So it's good to see that coming to Windows.
And it is convenient, like it is a nice kind of convenient, it's a small feature, but it is a nice to have, as is that one with the taskbar, I think,
Yeah, exactly. And most of what I'm going through here today is actually just the small bits, but they're the most convenient. So, anyone who's working with zip folders, sometimes you might have come across a file format called 7Z or 7zip or TAR. Probably some students, college students out there, or people who are in employment, came across these zip file formats. So Windows will have this support for those as well. So, maybe a cut at the WinRAR application there. There's more integration with your Android phone. There's a new feature that will provide wireless access to your Android phone if you're on the same network. So you can, maybe access all the photographs or videos or whatever you might have stored on your Android phone without having to go look for that USB cable and find the port and connect it in. So you'll be able to do that wirelessly now.
At Apple. Apple in Mac OS Sequoia launched the new ability to effectively mirror your iPhone just straight over to your Mac. So Microsoft were like, lads, that's a good idea. So it seems like that's a really a quick attempt and a nice execution on a copy there by the sounds of it as well. So fair play.
Yeah, so it's quite good. Also to be able to go through the files as well, through the File Explorer app, I think is going to be very good. So yeah, well done. Yeah, a bit of a copy from the smartphone platforms there in the last two, I think. Another one now that I like is maybe there's some people out there who use the Windows Start menu in this sense that, we traditionally use the Windows Start menu to launch a program, launch Google Chrome, launch Word, whatever. But if you actually have a file created and saved somewhere in your computer and you remember the name of it, you can actually start searching for that directly from your Start menu. Instead of just using the old enter key to open it, you can move around there and find what's coming is a share button. So this will allow you to share the file out. So again, a copy from the smartphone, Android and iOS both do this as well.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to make it much easier, for distributing out files or sending in work or whatever you have to do. So well done on that. Good to see that one as well. Now here's a bit of a controversial one. The WordPad app is being pulled from Windows 11.
Why? This I don't understand, Daniel. Yeah. Pitch me on this one, please.
Yeah. So Microsoft did rumor this back in September 2023. Their reason for it is to say it's outdated. Word and Notepad are apparently better in their in their opinion. So yeah, look, I think it's a push to try and get people to subscribe to the Office 365 to get their word processing facility. So, but here I'll put in the caveat: it's while it is going, it's not going to disappear off your machine if you already have Windows 11. This is going to happen to new installs of Windows 11 starting from this week, I suppose. So if let's say you took your computer and you found out the hard drive was busted, you got a hard drive replaced, and you go to reinstall Windows 11, then you're not going to get your WordPad back. But again, you can. There is a workaround that you can get it back. You can download it and reinstall it as you would, I suppose, another program.
Yeah,
it just makes it awkward, doesn't it?
It does, but this is the thing, though, right? Like, I remember going back years ago. Like, I don't use Windows now. Windows, to me, I look at Windows and that seems like a bit of a headache, to be honest. But I can use JAWS. I was using JAWS and Zoom Text for years. I was using Zoom Text back in the AI Squared days. I was, but like, you know, to me, like, something like Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, you know, those to me, I never understood why those should need to be actively installed. If I compare that to the Apple equivalent, you know, we have Pages, Numbers, and Keynote on the Apple side, and they're just pre-installed. There's no subscription, you know, there's none of that nonsense, and they're equally, arguably powerful applications, but Microsoft just want to charge you for them, and then now they're removing WordPad, and it's like, why?
Yeah,
you know,
well, see, WordPad was free with Windows, and it's been around actually. It came out with Windows 3.1. At the time, it wasn't called WordPad; it was called Write. You know, and has got a few bits of upgrades along with as Windows got upgraded.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just not going to be bundled with Windows now. You can get it in the store, you know, the Windows Store, the App Store, their version of App Store. But they just have said, right, no, we're not shipping it pre-installed with Windows 11 anymore.
Yeah, seems a strange decision. Look, will it be the end of the world? Probably not. But it was always a safe reliability that, you know, if you just needed a quick word processor, just whack open the start menu and there it was, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a, from that point of view, I think it is a loss to Windows, and one that's completely, I would argue, unnecessary. I don't think anyone was actively asking for this.
Oh no, I wouldn't. Well, I'd say probably maybe somebody in the financial department of Microsoft had said, "Hey, look, if you got rid of this, we might get another few hundred Office 365 subscriptions." You wouldn't know what to think is behind it, but somebody counted the beans somewhere and decided this was a good thing.
That's always the way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But there you go. Daniel, listen, thank you so much for going through all of those. Really great stuff. Joe, will you be using any of the new features? There's some nice ones in there.
Yeah, nice ones. I have Microsoft Word. The share, maybe share and stuff, making that a bit easier is always good. None of them really excited me, David, put it that way.
Interesting. I do think the taskbar one is nice. Just that it's, as we said, it's a small little one about convenience, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Just everything needs to be really handy for everybody now. So that's the whole point of it all. Everything needs to be easy to cut out the learning curve. I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and look, there's loads of other improvements coming to Windows 11 in the form of the Copilot. But as we've said before, Copilot in Ireland is hit and miss at the moment. It's not launched. It's available, you know, on some subscription things. It just we don't seem to get the nice new stuff as to do in America. So yeah, like hopefully when Copilot comes, we'll see more on that front. And yeah.
Yeah, so, it is interesting. I think
and look, because this is only launched a week, often it can take a little while to discover more and more new features in Windows. And if anybody has got the update to Windows 11 and came across stuff that they think we should share, absolutely do. You know, maybe send us one of those voice notes. We'd absolutely love to hear from our listeners, anyone come across something that they found in Windows 11, because while we do keep our ear to the ground and eyes peeled for these improvements in a new Windows update, often it can be a few weeks and you say, oh, right, didn't notice that before, and this is cool, and it's not wrote about anywhere else. It's something that, these things, sometimes you stumble across them accidentally. Yep. So absolutely do send us in a voice note or an email and let us know what you think of the new Windows Windows 11 2024 release.
Yeah, they never get as much coverage as the iOS updates, which is always interesting, do they? It's like, like Edvard sent in the message there earlier talking about the iOS updates. We've YouTube videos, newsletter articles covering all that. Microsoft are never ones to shout about what they're doing with Windows, which is interesting in that regard. They very much, quietly update at the worst conceivable time, and they seem to be quite happy doing that for the last kind of 10 odd years, which is interesting. But that isn't to say that there isn't any new really useful little tools and features in there. So Daniel, thank you so much for that. Daniel, are you free to quickly plug some of the upcoming courses from us here in VI Labs by any chance?
Absolutely, yeah. So our Vision Academy training courses, to inquire more or to sign up to some of these, and it just say this at the start, email training@vi.ie, and I'll just run down to a few of them that are coming up. So this Thursday, the 10th of October at 12 o'clock, there's accessible smart home technology or smart home security technology. So anyone who is maybe interested to hear about some security items that you can get for your house that are accessible, definitely drop us an email on that, training@vi.ie. We have the Hable 1 course. There's 3 sessions of this, and the first one commences on Friday, the 18th of October, again at 12 o'clock. So if you're interested in that Hable 1 is a Braille inputter for smartphones. Well worth listening in on that one or attending that one. The touch typing course starts on Monday, the 21st of October. So if you want to improve your typing skills, definitely get in touch for that one. On the 17th of October at midday, we have a Braille webinar. So this is kind of more of an information piece. It's on the Braille Sense 6, the newest HIMS refreshable Braille display and inputter, so note taker as well. Introduction to the Google Nest smart speaker, that kicks off on Thursday, the 24th of October at 12 o'clock. So that's for the Google Nest, the Google Home smart speaker. And we are going to then on Halloween, on the 31st of October, also at midday, we'll have a podcast, music and audiobooks talk.
Guess who they got to do that one, Daniel? Me, and I will be joined by Peter Claridge Bowler on that one as well.
That'll be interesting.
Should be fun. We'll make it fun.
Yeah, and we might do a few clippets of that in one of our upcoming Talking Technology podcasts. We'll review it. Who
knows?
There you go. So that's what I have for you on the on the upcoming courses and webinars. So any information you want or to sign up on any of those, it's training@vi.ie. And if you are listening in but you want to come back to that list again, if you go back to our Tech on Tap newsletter edition 224, which just went out to our audience on Friday evening last, it'll be in your email there, so you can actually go back over that list of upcoming courses. So if there's one or two there that you are interested in, you can get a chance to take down the details. You can go back and get them in our newsletter. So that's it from that front, David.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Daniel. Training@vi.ie. It's interesting you mentioned their HIMS. They actually call themselves Selvis BLV now. Don't know whether you knew that. They've changed the name because they kept getting confused with a pharmaceutical company, apparently.
Okay.
So yeah, a weird world, but HIMS, I believe it's still a thing, but yeah, they call themselves Selvis BLV, as in blind low vision now. Yeah, so there you go. Never a dull moment in the world of assistive technology, but there you have it. So listen, that is our lot for episode number 68 for Talking Technology. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Apologies again for the issues that we're having with VI Live. We'll have to go and give the old server a kick in a minute. You know, someone needs to put a penny in the meter, see if we can get that going again. But sorry about that. But hey, it is always, as always, going to be available on the VI Labs YouTube channel, on all your favourite podcast apps, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will have Talking Technology with VI Labs there for you. But for now, thank you so much for listening. Do feel free to get in touch with us. And in the meantime, have a good week.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with VI Labs. If you'd like to support our show, please visit vi.ie/donate. Talking Technology is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in digital accessibility services. IA Labs, digital inclusion, your legal obligation.